Hello, everyone. I hope everyone's having a pretty good Friday. Let's also hit this because it is Friday, right? Uh, let's swap those out. So, mm, I hope everybody's gonna have a pretty good weekend. Anybody have anything planned? Tomorrow is Saturday. It's supposed to be more of a guitar show than anything else. Uh, we'll see how that goes. We'll see how that goes. Maybe it will be a guitar show. I said it, but I don't know. I generally that means I would have to have a good lord. All right, I won't even sweat myself about it. How's everyone else's holiday going? I hope Friday Friday going. Let's check. When is sunset?
Sunset will be at 6:37 p.m. today.
Sunset is 7 minutes away. Wow, how time flies when you're searching the web. Hey James, good to see you. I hope your weekend is going to be banging. I hope you've got plans. So yeah, it's we're leading into the weekend. I guess we don't want to be too depressing, right? I was about to say sanguine, but then I sort of forgot what sanguine meant there for a second. Oh, nice. That's very cool. Right. I forgot that they called them that. What's your record? What's your boy's record? And are they pee wee or high school? I'm just curious. So, um, 1 and 5. Oh, nice. So they need to go on a tight little run for the next 3 games. Nice. Well, I wish him luck. Very cool. Ooh, excuse me. I should make some coffee. I just had like dinner, a giant pasta, sausage. Uh, how do I even describe it? Penne and uh, still a little and ziti's, right? Rotelli, right? The little round one. Mix those up. Do those in a bowl with ground beef. Not ground beef, ground sausage. M- uh, about to say mustard. What is wrong with my memory now? I'm trying to drink to get my mind right. Yeah, absolutely. Have a good weekend, man. Um, so I had a fairly heavy meal, which was essentially pasta, sausage, ground beef, and tomato sauce, essentially, which seasoned appropriately. And I was sitting in the other room quietly folding laundry. Giant piles, like everything I've ever owned ever. I had to wash this. Like I think I did it Wednesday. So now it's sprinkled, but it's clean. And then I was like, ah, I do have a new iron. But quite frankly, I hate to say it, but I've had no need to iron anything in my moves south. So I don't even know why I have an iron. There's a dog outside. I sort of passed out on the football game. I was halfway interested and then I sort of lost interest because I was doing laundry. And then when I was checking on it before it was all over, it said that he was out of the game because he hurt his finger. Did they lose yesterday? I forgot even who won or who lost. I know that there was a double kick that stood for some reason. So yeah, Seahawks Rams, right? 26-17. Game recap. Don't want to recap the whole game. Oh, excuse me. So yeah, I should have made coffee, but I was like, damn, fine. Um, so please excuse me for that. And I've got my weird hat on. It's not my favorite, but it's nice. It's gotten cold too, so it's officially, yeah, it's officially winter. What's the temperature where you are, William? If you don't mind me asking. Man, these weather dudes, they keep saying it's gonna rain, and it hasn't. Well, it rained for like an hour, but they've been saying it's gonna rain for a whole week. It's not bad. It's just windy. All right. Well, uh, oh, we should start this. Okay. How do we even start the show today? I'm a little kind of zonked. Um, y'all want to talk a little Netflix? So, what's good to watch on Netflix? I finally did finish the Squid Game. Uh, I think it was pretty good. I rewatched Dota, which was a sort of a action American anime style kind of thing. The Texas school shooter got released. What? Hold on, what Texas school shooter? Texas has a lot of shooters. Texas. Is this the one from last week? 415 fighting for his life after being shot 4 times. See? Everybody thinks. One day ago, the Texas student who allegedly opened fire at high school, injuring 4 people, including a teacher, was from jail on Thursday. This is one day ago. Everything else is 2 days ago. 3 hours ago, he bonds out of jail. He's 15. And here's the thing. I mean, I'm not for this kind of thing, but sometimes people get angry at the mistreatment and they go overboard. Uh, so here's the. I mean, I'm not making any apologies for a school shooting, mind you, but there's a video that accompanies this, and he's 18, which I'm amazed that he bonded out 4 people. What was the bond? The 18-year-old student. Do we want to flip this? The 18-year-old student accused of injuring 4 people in shooting at Timberville High School in Arlington was released from jail Thursday. Timothy Simpkin kept quiet after police responded. He did not respond to the report when I had anything to say to his family of those who were wounded. Due to counts of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, he walked to the release surrounded by family and friends where he could be fitted with electronic monitor. Given his condition of bond, Simpkin was arrested Wednesday after police said he opened fire inside the high school. 4 people were hurt in the shooting, including 2 teachers and 2 students. One 50-year-old boy identified as Zacchaeus, Zazzaccaeus, Let's parse this one. Zach, is it Zaxius? Zach, Zaxius? Zaxius. Let's go with that. Zaxius Selby by a GoFundMe post was critically injured. Another student was grazed by a bullet, and a teacher identified by students and sources as and Calvin Petty was shot. Was shot where? All right, you said four people. One guy apparently was the target. Uh, was grazed. Yeah, okay. Could have been the target. Teacher was shot where? In the leg, in the foot, in the finger, in the chest, in the head. Where was the teacher shot? In the GoFundMe post to raise money for Selby's medical bills, the organizer described him as a bright and respectful boy. That's always what they say about people. They don't say we're raising money for this piece of shit in the neighborhood. Um, there's a video and said in part, and everybody's got a gun in America, and say in part, this innocent 50-year-old did not bully Tim. Arlington police also found other weapons in the family home and believe they found the 45 caliber gun Simpkins used during the shooting on campus. The 45 caliber is a very large caliber handgun and very potent, very deadly. Arlington Police Department, Arlington Police Chief Kevin Colby said, "Let's look it up. The 45 caliber." That's one of those old Dirty Harry guns. Ooh. Ugh. Yeah. Yeah, that don't look good. Um, yeah. Landed guns, I mean, just saying. I'm just saying. We can close this one. I'm surprised he got bond. What was his bond? In an interview on Good Day, Kobe said the 45 caliber weapon found on a street in Grand Prairie had been linked to the shooting on the second floor in the classroom of the high school. So he didn't put it back in his family. He just dropped it on the street. Okay. ATF has done forensic and has matched the weapon with the casing that was found in the school. He said, "We are at a high confidence degree that we have found the weapon that was used." The arrest affidavit of the witness being breaking up a fight Simpson was involved in. That the arrest affidavit states the witness intervened, breaking up a fight Simpkins was involved in. Simpkins is the shooter. Right, hold it. Let's get it right. Hold on. Oh Lord, Lord, Lord. Huh. Tim, right? So they call him Tim, Timothy. And the person who was shot over here is the K is Selby. So it's Simpkin and Selby. All right, okay. The witness interview breaking the fight between Simpkin was involved in. The witness was able to control the other individual involved in the altercation. The individual gave up and stopped being combative. When the witness turned around to check on Simpkin had produced a firearm. None of this sounds right at all. He grabbed him instantly, just calm down, because that's how long it takes for you to break up a fight, get hold of somebody who instantly stops being combative. And then you turn around to find someone pulling out a gun. That whole scenario takes place a whole lot faster than that. I don't doubt that he pushed them apart, and maybe by the time we turned around, the dude was pulling out a gun. Uh, it's 61 degrees there. He got it. Well, yeah, he's 15. You're happy to have him out of jail. You know he's got his problems are not over, but you're happy to have him home. So yeah, I get a part. Like I get a small. I call it a small. Well, it is a small celebration. It's still a party. Yeah, so I get a party. Um, The energy gave up, stopped being combative. When the witness turned around. Simpkin had produced firearm. Several teachers and coaches were involved in breaking up the fight, including Pettit, who ended up getting shot. Where though? Simpkins' family claims he was being bullied and tried to protect himself. They said there are documented reports of ongoing incidents between him and the other students. This is a good thing. You know why? Because you can't paint him like some hip hop loving, wild, random, drug pushing jerk. Now he's got complaints lodged with the school about bullies and bullying and being bullied, right? And then he takes this step, and it looks less like he's just some punk with a gun and more like a desperate 15-year-old, which makes sense to me now why he got bail. Um, and if the person on that list is the person he's always said bullied him, and then he shot that person again, yeah, super duper fucking wrong. But I get a fair judge going, y'all should have handled this better, all of you. I'm going to give you bond. You're going to have to listen to what a court says about it, a jury says about it, rather, if they indict you, uh, and then you'll stand trial for, or if the grand jury doesn't indict you. That way, you don't have to sit and wait for that day in jail. So yeah, I get it, but I think it's all in this sentence claims he was being bullied. The family claims he was being bullied, and there are documented reports. That's a magic word. That documented reports of ongoing incidents. Ongoing is also key there. The family representative said that due to all the media attention, the Simpkins family is now concerned for their own safety. Everybody's always concerned for their own safety. Um, my sympathy goes out to the other family that hurt Timothy's grandmother. Like I said, grandmother Lily Simpkins. So this is the shoe. My sympathy goes out to the other family that was, you know, hurt. Timothy's grandmother Lily Simpkins said, "Yeah, that sounds like a black grandmama's thing to say. I feel bad for that boy over there. That's something that my grandmother, God rest her soul, would say. Very, yeah, we're a very religious group, aren't we? She helped raise him, and she blamed what happened on his being bullied. I baptized him. I dedicated him. He's a good child. He's my godson." The family pastor Chris Taylor said, "We're going to keep praying for the family and support everybody in this dilemma." Oh, Kobe said the bullying claims will be investigated. We're going to be looking into any allegation of bullying, basically his past history, the school's history, he said. But even if you're bullied, there are other options besides carrying a gun into school and using a gun in a situation like that. That's just unacceptable. Yeah. Yeah. If you did what you're supposed to, he wouldn't have to have brought his gun into school, right? This is always, always a problem area. If you go to authorities and authorities don't do anything to protect you, when do you protect yourself? The authorities are always going to say, and I'm not saying he should have brought a gun to school, don't get me wrong, but I'm saying, the schools, I'm looking at this and I see the school at fault, right? And I don't know what the bully family said. And I'm running only on what the family said, that there's documented proof of bully. But I don't know what the bully's family said. But if the bully's family says there's no bullying, but there's documented proof of bullying, and the family going, not my son, because people protect their own children, and then they sort of stem the tide of proper discipline toward this thing, and then it bled this far, then it's like, you know where the problems lie. Um, this is an easy one to solve, just because it's such a tight community and it's high school, right? And the actors are few, right? So it's the principal or the administration, whoever that might be. That's one. It's the parents and the bullied child and the parents of the bullied child. That's group two. The bully and his parents. That's group three. Who did what? When did they do it? And why didn't they fix it? And it's that simple, right? It's not that, I mean, it led to a shooting, obviously, but this should be wrapped up in like a month. So, but the idea that a judge gave him bond tells me, and mind you, we in America see a lot of shootings. Don't get it twisted. And we're always like, oh my God, this is our, and they know how sensitive we, the public, are to it. So he wouldn't have given just any random knucklehead, like, you know, bond. Although I'm still kind of curious to know what the bond was. I think Matthew ISD needs to reevaluate some of their safety measures, needs to look at some history. ISD, I think, is the name, the school. All right. ISD school security, school security. All right. Because I'm pretty sure you're also wondering how'd you get the gun into school? Need to look at some history. I will tell you that over the past few years, we have seen an increase in our youth in Arlington and in other cities too, carrying weapons, he said. And we just can't stress enough that today, young people carrying weapons is just not a solution, any type of, not a solution to any type of violence or anything like that. Yeah, guns are solutions to violence. What are you talking about? That's the most ridiculous. I think he's talking off the top of his head, but he's not good at it. And we can't stress enough that today's young people carrying weapons is just not a solution to any type of violence. Which type of violence are you talking about? Or anything like that. Foxford reached out to National IC to address bullying claims from the Simpkins family. A spokesman said that the district can't release specific details about the investigation, but said in part, here we go. Every report that we receive of a potential bullying situation is thoroughly investigated and goes through the proper process in order to assess and determine the appropriate consequences. This is jibbly jabber. Let's break this down. Every report that we receive of potential bullying, potential bullying situation is thoroughly investigated and goes through the proper process. What is the proper process and what is a thorough investigation? A thorough investigation should be the only proper process, but goes through the proper process in order to assess. This is okay. She said the same thing like 3 times in order to assess it and determine. Assessing is determining the proper consequences. Okay, that's not saying if he was bullied though. That's just saying we got to process it for him. And now I want to know your process. Ooh, the wind is nice. Um, what was his bond? Let's read about the shooter. Yeah, we're not gonna watch the video of the fight because I've seen it and I was just kind of like, Jesus Christ, man. Oh no. So none of it is voids. No, none of it is voids. It's all 3 second video. All right. 75,000 and you need 10%. So yeah, that's like 7,000. Wow. Okay. Huh. That's also a low bond for a school shooting because you know you're gonna wig out all the parents who go to their high school, right? So if you do get bond, you want to give somebody like $1 million bond or something like that. And it was only 75,000. So yeah, suspected school shooter bullied for being wealthy. Family says Texas high school shooting. Boy 15 fighting for his life after being shot 4 times. Family says, yeah, it's not good. GoFundMe removes page set up by the Arlington school shooter's family. GoFundMe removes page set up by Arlington school shooter's family activist because he's traumatized 2 days after he shot 50-year-old and a teacher. Seems to pull a gun from his backpack on Wednesday and shot 15-year-old Zacchaeus Selby, a 25-year-old Calvin Pitt, an English teacher. As far until then, the family was removed from plan because of violence GoFundMe terms of service. Simpson, 18, critically injured. Wait, is he 18 or is he 15? And also wounded. He's 18. He shot a 15-year-old after and wounded a teacher who was shot in the back when he opened fire at the. Okay, remained in the house, clean life after being shot 4 times. He said, where did he shoot him though? Second before the brother of the class recorded the sampling fled scene that had the $75,000 bond, but he did shoot a teacher in the back. His family has claimed that he's an innocent victim, and GoFundMe, justice for Timothy Simpkin. Okay, it makes sense that they would take this down. Huh? That's weird. All right. I guess we'll never know what his injuries were. Huh? That's interesting. Because you shot him 4 times, and he's 19. Well, there are some big 15-year-olds, but yeah, that fight looked ridiculous. Uh, I think they all do now in the modern era, right? Everybody has a. Oh, what is this? Okay. Yeah, in the modern era, everybody has metal detectors. Everybody. Um, but New York don't have a lot of gun incidents in school. I mean, you would hear about it naturally if they did. New York is a gun tight area. I hate to say it. Most people who have guns are like actual criminals, and they're not messing around with high school. Ooh. All right. Let's skip through some of this. We had a super short show yesterday. It was like just under an hour. Biden rejects Trump request to withhold documents on January 6th. This is that, yeah, see, fuck you, Trump kind of stuff that I hate going on because it also says, like, wait till there's a Republican president. The amount of shit he can openly release on other politicians. Um, yeah, I look at this whole Trump thing as the insiders teaching an outsider a lesson and less so much about all this other stuff. And I also want to remind people that before you get too crazy about Trump, um, all his minions were people who were in Republican government forever, right? So you can say what you want. Uh, they were friends of and worked with all these Democrats who now want to call only the I call them rioters, but only the insurgents on January 6th as the bad guy, and maybe one or two other politicians who they want to take over their seats, but they don't want to start like really going down this road because then you would have to mention like 500 politicians in and out of office and you know what I mean? So yeah, it's just there's a Proud Boys rabbi. This is another thing. How these guys get all this like they say the wildest shit and they get a following. Um, wow. I also noticed in the paper that they're talking about Brittany Murphy, who died like how long ago did she die? It must have been like 20 years ago. They're looking into her death now. I'm like, shouldn't you have done it then? And if you really cared, didn't you know she was on a path of destruction? And could you stopped it then? This is it. Like now that she's gone, you can keep on slow news days looking to any random celebrity and gen up interest instead of covering like a real news story. I couldn't even begin to tell you what a real news story would be, by the way. The Los Angeles County Sheriffs won't enforce a vaccine mandate in his agency. None of these cops want to deal with the fucking vaccine. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. I super like that one. Um, people are ridiculous. Yeah, I thought this was weird too. The school safety officer shot this teenage girl in the chest and killed her. People are too trigger happy with guns. That's the problem. I mean, even the cops, right? And then when there's a bunch of cops and you and they don't kill you, they beat you up. It's just kind of like you need to fix your cop situation. Everybody wants to, and I really do believe this. Everybody wants to like their police department and want their kids to want to work in the police department, right? Uh, but I think the people also want like the bad guys to get their shit together. Meaning, if you're a bad guy, I shouldn't know about you if you're my neighbor. But now everybody wants to brag about being the bad guy. Um, when did America get so showy? There's that '90s show coming, spinoff of that '70s show. See, there are things in moments, right? So, how do I explain this? So, in the '60s, there was a moment for Gilligan's Island and I Dream a Genie, right? Um, in the '80s, I get, well, what's it, the '90s? In the '90s, I guess it was Friends, right? So now you're in this space where nobody's got any ideas and you just rehash stuff because was popular, but you forget why it was popular. It was popular in a time and in a space of something. Um, I don't know how well those shows do now. I don't know how well Sanford and Son does now. I don't know how well The Odd Couple does now, right? Yeah, I think a lot of people suspected he killed her, and then he OD'd himself. Could be, right? I mean, the only people who knows who killed you is your spouse. They were in the house with you, right? Didn't they say this about Kurt Cobain and what's her name? She was the lead singer of the band Hole, Hole, not Whole. Katie? No, it wasn't Katie. It was something. What was her name? It's gonna come to me. When I was a younger man, my memory was much quicker than this, and I used to always want to be on Jeopardy. Now my memory is slow. Courtney Love, thank you. Courtney, right? Courtney Love. All right. So, but they were talking about her having done them in, right? In one of his heroin out drug stupors, they said like she killed him like with a shotgun. That's utterly. This is what you get on the internet. I mean, well, the internet has always been the internet. People just telling tales out of school and lying and sensational shit. Uh, and the reason why that's ridiculous is just because the way blood splatter works, right? And as loud as a shotgun is, she'd have been covered in his brains and guts and all this stuff if she put you know what I'm saying? And if she had wore a raincoat, like then the splatter would have left the outline of where the blood wasn't on the wall behind her. You know, so there's all this stuff about because he killed himself lying against the wall. There's a wall, there's his body, and there's a bed. And yeah, so yeah, that he was also like his comedy. There was a period of like nightclub, uh, like stand up. It was it was fine for the most part to work blue as long as there was no cops around. Like you couldn't work blue in the South, but it was never on TV. Then all of a sudden, once people found out that it was on TV, uh, and it got so popular that Dick Martin and Frank Sinatra had essentially a Vegas like stand up lounge act with Buddy Hackett, who used to tell raunchy jokes and raunchy stories, and Red Fox was one of those guys, and yeah, and then they got on TV and they had to all cleaned it up for 1950s television. Um, yeah, Flip Wilson was like the king comedian in the 70s. He was on television and everywhere. Yeah. So all of these people, Geraldine, I'm surprised you remember that. Um, yeah, but we're gonna dig into all these long gone people. In an era where you really need to give people something now that isn't just more violence on television and more political animus toward each other. And I think the last good thing like that, well, because what you want people to do is watch a lot of TV. Now that they can watch whatever TV they want, that will eventually get boring. That you've given them everything they want, uh, and now you're gonna argue with people on Twitter and go back and forth. Uh, New Grand Theft Auto game is not out, right? You go back and forth and you'll figure out what the problems are. I don't know. Every time I read this, my whole position is this should not be this hard. I mean, in the greatest country in the world, right? Should we have a better kind of like education system, uh, so that people aren't so happy to believe ridiculousness, whether it's Proud Boy bullshit or Antifa bullshit, or I mean, shouldn't people be smarter? Shouldn't they have gotten enough how to think in like high school and junior high school and what books to read? I mean, you've made people hate school, and now as adults, I hate to say it, but people are not as with it as you want them to be. And not just that, you could have made the people a little more moral. There's something flying around in here again. Uh, and by moral, I don't mean like, sanctimonious or anything. I just mean like everyone could agree that, yeah, the police should be fair. Well, how about that? That's moral, right? If people were not religious, I mean, you could be moral and not be religious. But generally, being faithful to your religion makes you moral. And the churches can't even keep people going to church because people roll their eyes at ministers and rabbis and imams and preachers and all this other stuff. So you're like, man, how did we get here? Wow. Endangered sea turtle found slaughtered next to abandoned stove and knife. What is wrong with people? Oh, that's disgusting. Wildlife officials in Sabah, Malaysia, made a grisly discovery on patrol last Friday when they found the carcass of 11 endangered sea turtles turned over and split open with their insides hanging out. The animals were to believe to have been slaughtered by them for their meat. Sabah Wildlife Department Director Augustine Trout told AFP sacks of suspected in uh, turtle meat, a stove, and a knife were also found at the scene. These are these primal people. These are like the people who, well, first of all, the rhinos are disappearing in Africa. I'm about to say who hunt rhinos for, but the rhinos are disappearing in Africa. So Chinese people in China can make powders to make their penises bigger. That's, yeah, no one else is hunting rhino horn. Um, and China also does something with the ivory. So there's a black market for that. So what do you say? I also watched the Dave Chappelle show today. Did you? So the Dave Chappelle show has gotten some criticism from the trans community, but he talks about a lot of other stuff that no one mentioned in any of these articles, right? Um, I should probably do a little bit about it, but I mean, the people, some of the stuff that he was complaining about, like the abuse of black people, no one mentioned, right? He mentioned essentially like disloyalty in the group to like uh black folks and their pain, right? They don't mention any of that. They just mentioned that they were offended by the things he said. And I was like, but why? But there was a reason why he said what he said. They don't want to give you context. They just want to say people are offended. This is a exact quote out of context from the whole show, and then other people are offended. They said Dave Chappelle has a history of this, and then here's another out of text quote. So you read, you're like, oh my god, this is outrageous. But then if you read if they wrote a paragraph about why he said X, which led to Y, you'd be like, oh, I see what he did there, right? Um, and I'll give you an example. He was saying how the baby, a rapper, the trans community, gay community, trans community, tried to kind of like end his whole career, right? They wanted to not meet to him. They wanted to cancel him. And Chappelle was making the point that uh, the baby is not like, you know, a how can I even phrase it? I'm not even paraphrasing, but it's essentially people who should live and let live can't wait to like they're the victim of everything and they'll attack you and destroy you, uh, just like white racists did, which I think is what his point was. And when you read the articles about Dave Chappelle gets canceled for transgender jokes, for gay jokes, for this joke, for that joke, they never take it in context of what he's saying. I thought it was a really interesting tie up to his work. Yeah, he seems to be great, but I was really just shocked by some of the. I mean, because we read about it yesterday. I was really shocked by some of what was being said because I mean, I just had these friends and they didn't like Dave Chappelle either. And I was like, see, you're missing the point. Stop watching it to be offended. And like, how dare he say that? Watch it to be this. I always say, we as black people don't have allies. Watch it and try and be an ally and see where he's coming from. He's a window into a completely different culture that you think but you don't really know. You know what I'm saying? Uh, and that's it. They were like, no, absolutely not. This is absolutely completely outrageous. And what you're essentially doing is you're choosing a side. He also makes a point of can transgender people be racist, right? And that's another thing. Uh, so yeah, it's a pretty good special. It's a pretty good Dave. Let's look up some of the Dave Chappelle criticism. Capel, really, that didn't take. Oh, for God's sakes! All right. When I was a kid in junior high school, we had to take typing on an actual typewriter. And I was always mediocre at it. And I was like, I'm never going to type, never going to work in an office. And all my life, I've been typing. It really is kind of pretty fucking funny. Trans showrunner Jacqueline Moore won't work for Netflix again because of Dave Chappelle. All right, don't work for Netflix again. Comedy is not about being afraid. Cat Temp of backlash over Dave Chappelle's. Dave Chappelle gets standing ovation amid Netflix special controversy. It's not a controversy because you call it a controversy. The guy's not yet 50. Good job, Dave. Um, let's look at more of this. Dave Chappelle gets standing ovation. Dave Chappelle shrugs off backlash. He should. Uh, Dave Chappelle do Netflix special. The closer uses comedy to veil bigotry. Ooh, let's read that NPR. Fuck Twitter. Dave Chappelle addresses backlash to transphobic jokes. The Beast. Dave Chappelle aims to cancel culture with kindness conspiracy as star-studded. What is this? 15 hours ago, yeah. Dear white people showrunner boycott Netflix over transphobic Dave Chappelle special. Amid backlash, Dave Chappelle gets standing ovation in LA. Chappelle jokes about being canceled amid controversy. Now, who cares what fucking 50 Cent has to say? That's your problem. He's a useless person, and you should not care what he has to say. Dave Chappelle does not make it easy. He's one of the most brilliant. Oh, who wrote this? Eric Deegan. All right, Eric, let's see what you're bringing to the table. He's one of the most brilliant stand-up comics in the business, but he also makes a sport of challenging his audience. Put the ideas. What is the name of this thing? For Dave Chappelle, punchlines are dares. His new special, The Closer, goes too far. Who are you to say what goes too far? He's one of the most brilliant some community business, but he also makes a sport of challenging his audience. You've got fucking 3 paragraphs, putting ideas in front of them that he knows are uncomfortable and unpalatable to those invested in modern notions of how to talk about feminism, gender, sexual orientation, and race. Yeah, see here's a problem. Uh, the idea here is that this has been going on for 300 years. Maybe some of this other shit is just a distraction. He even goes into feminism with not Sojourner Truth, uh, and Susan B. Anthony, right? He spoke about it. He spoke about gender, right? So, yeah, it's maybe like I said yesterday, maybe some of this shit is not for you. You want to show up to the Black Party, see what's going on, and then complain about the Black Party, and maybe that's what the problem is. Uh, I just think it's not for you. It's the idea of an insight into something that you would not normally have any access to. Something doesn't make it larger point, but of course, these days the fix is in. Chappelle is considered the greatest for a time among many comedians. He says about himself wryly toward the end of the special, and the closer finds him surrounded by an enthusiastic audience in Detroit, ready to go wherever he takes them. So you're attacking the audience for being adoring. Yeah, this is a long piece. We're not even going to read it. Um, I think my point is clear. I think, and the way I also read this special was it sort of felt like an Avengers movie in that he had a lot of callbacks to the other 5 stand-ups that he did on Netflix. Uh, but I don't think it was one of his best. But I get why it was different. Why it was about closing, right? It was so like the final cap on this arc. And here's another thing, like it's not just like, wow, I don't like that. It's like it has to go away. Like in America, you're destroying shit still. Speculates he could be a serial killer. All right. Dave Chappelle railed against cancel culture. First of all comedians hate cancel culture, right? They want to be able to say whatever they want and not take any consequences for it because they've seen quite a few comedians, uh, ended. Twitter and left-leaning news outlets Thursday amid conflict of his latest Netflix special, The Closer, telling a star-studded sold out in Los Angeles that if this is what's being canceled, it's about, I love it. I don't know what to tell you except I'm a bad motherfucker. Haha. The 40-year-old funny man told the rapturous audience of more than 18,000 at the Hollywood Bowl following the screening of his Untitled Chappelle documentary. The outspoken saw then got more pointed and specific. Fuck Twitter, fuck NBC News, fuck ABC, all these stupid ass networks. I'm not talking to them. I'm talking to you. This is real life, he said to a loud roar from the crowd, according to the Hollywood Reporter. Chappelle responding to terminal criticism he's receiving. Yeah, they sort of like gin up more. Yeah, like I said, as long as they're selling. I said, look, we say it here on this pod all the time. The media does not care if you catch the baby that someone dropped out the fire or you drop the baby. The story is still gonna be on the fucking morning news about your rapture glorious hands or your slippery hands, right? They'll film you dating, oh young love. They'll film you get married, oh wow, their future husband. They'll film you breaking up, oh who cheated on who, right? They're still gonna get that nickel for whatever story they're trying to tell. Um, it's sort of sinister and cynical because I've seen them do it with crime stories and help make somebody guilty. So yeah, but it's yeah, I guess it's a thing they have to put up with, right? Um, when I say that, I mean movie stars and like public people. You need the media outlets to get, oh, so and so does have a movie out and it was good, and then they can push that message to more people. Um, all these stupid ass networks. I'm not talking about them, but Dave Chappelle got re-famous despite of this. Remember that they tried to call him crazy and all this. He walked away from stuff, so he has a certain amount of credibility that a lot of people don't have, and he's well beloved in his own community. So there's that. ABC News, all these stupid ass networks. I'm not talking to them. I'm talking to you. This is real life. Said to a loud roar from the crowd according to Hollywood ABC. Chappelle responded to the torrent of criticism he's received following Tuesday's release of his sixth and final Netflix special, which some has blasted as transphobic. Here we go. They canceled J.K. Rowling's My God, Chappelle said in the special. The close effectively, she was she said gender was a fact, and then the trans community got mad as shit. They started calling her a turf. The comic then declared himself to be on Team Turf, trans exclusionary radical feminist, prompting applause from the audience watching the show. I agree, I agree, man. Gender is a fact. You have to look at it from a woman's perspective. Jacqueline Moore, executive producer and showrunner of Netflix's Dare White People, was among those who said they were offended and they were at by Chappelle's comments, and the closer tweeting Wednesday that she was done with the streaming giant. Really, you're so mad at him that you gave up your job. All right, bye. That don't make any sense. His shadow is huge, more to Variety Thursday while detailing her boycott of Netflix. He's brilliant, goofy comedian. He's brilliant at the political comedian. He has been brilliant for so long, so long. But I also don't think because you've been brilliant means that you're always brilliant. Oh boy, Moore, who was transitioning during the pandemic to Variety, she decided to speak out on Twitter because Chappelle's material on the transgender community felt different than his earlier take on the topic. This sounds like she's getting fired, um, or that the show's ended. Uh, I have been thrown against a wall for using a woman's bathroom more to the right. I would just say it's ironic that for somebody who's famous to walk away from a TV show because he felt like the message of the joke got lost. He doesn't see what the message and these jokes do to people. Okay. Chappelle, I think here's the problem. You're the victim of this thing, but this is the round robin thing, right? He's sitting here saying you cancel people with your power. And he's essentially saying fuck you. And now you're mad that you can't cancel him because he's a little too popular. But he won't always be popular. He was canceled before. And that's the thing, right? She's she sounds like she wants him to do what she wants him to do. And he won't do that, so she's got a problem with it. She. Uh yeah, what else? What is the other point then? What's the point? I'm gonna say this thing and he's gonna change his way, or I'm gonna say this thing and have him removed. What is the option? He's either gonna apologize to me or he's gonna go away. What is the other option? Right? So yeah, I don't really understand this. Um and there was a lot of it, and it was about how black people still struggle. And he even said it's not trans people, it's white people. If you watch the special, uh, and yeah, here's the thing: tell us a personal story about, but everybody's got a personal story about something. This is why you're supposed to keep it neutral. I tell people that all the time. They don't want to hear that. They want to sit here and tell you, my boyfriend. No, see, now you're bringing emotion into it about you personally, and I can't argue against that because it's you personally, right? But we're talking about the wider topic. Dispassionately, we might be able to get to a conclusion about it. I would say that it's just a ride that somebody who's famous, but see what these jokes do to people. Chappelle also took heat from conflating rapper the baby's homophobic comment with systematic racism, saying you can shoot a nigger in America, but better not hurt a gay person's feelings, while referring to a fatal 2018 shooting involving the rapper at a Walmart in North Carolina. Dave Chappelle The Close was ranked number 4 at the Friday on Netflix top 10 streaming list. And he closes out his slate of comedy special. Dave Chappelle takes the stage to try and set the record straight and get a few things, uh, try to get a few things. Uh, as he closes out his slate of comedy specials, Dave Chappelle takes the stage to try and set the record straight and get a few things off his chest, reading a list for 72 minutes special. Who wrote that? This is a weird quote. Dave Chappelle closer was quote was ranked number 4 at Friday top 10 streaming list. Quote, he closes out his slate of comedy specials as he closes out his slate of comedy specials. Good Lord, learn to read, man. As he closes out his slate of comedy specials, still quoting, Dave Chappelle takes the stage to try and set the record straight and get a few things off his chest, end quote. Reads a list for 72 minutes special. Reads a listing for 72 minutes special. I don't get that. Howard Stern is amazing to me. I mean, he has done a lot of weird stuff, and famous politician has been on his show, right? Hillary Clinton was on his show. John Kerry was on. I mean, he has, as well as rock stars, right? But then you also have a woman sitting on a vibrating chair or some shit, right? It's like I can have the Pope on my show one week, the president on my show the next week, and then have a famous porn star doing something ridiculous, and then the next week have a rock star on, and then the next week have another like, yeah, it's amazing. Dave Chappelle, he's the greatest. Apparently, that's what they're telling me. Uh, oh my gosh. Yeah. So let's see if there's anything else that we can cover. Love and relationship, dealing with midlife divorce. So now there used to be the 7 year age people would, if you stay married longer than 7 years, you would stay married. Now there's what they're calling the 25-year itch. People are breaking up after 25 years of marriage. Ugh. So now not only is people not getting married, people who've been married for 25 years aren't even bothering to stay married. Somebody explain to me why there's a marriage industry for selling dresses and buying rings and shit. You completely undermined this thing. I don't think people thought it out. Just like the churches, I think all this we're going to be a church and do whatever we want. I don't think they thought it out. Now they can't fill their churches. I was watching this thing about Gary, Indiana, and it's an empty city, and I was like, man, if I could get some money in that quiet place, and I mean like some money, like I'm never going to see money. Like if I could get like $20 million, right, I could change that whole city, right? Because I'm a stupid, ridiculous person with 1,000 ideas and no money, right? I think a lot of people who have money, no matter how they got it, whether they inherited or they were super savvy about it. I think when it comes to ideas about people, they either need to be trillionaires and can waste it on space, right? But they're not trying to help average people out. I'll tell you, I think we need more Boy Scout troops, more Girl Scout troops. I think you need to catch these people when they're young, right? It's sort of like Moses in the desert. Um, didn't he not take the adults because they were assholes, but he took everybody else? He made the like the what is the Moses story? Good Lord, I should know this. I'm supposed to. I grew up in the Christian faith. All right, so Moses took a whole bunch of people into the desert, and then the kids. I want to say the children got out. What is the Edmain, the deliverer of Israel, lawgiver. Man, this is going to be a forever story. You're never going to find it. Yeah, I can't even. You can't even skim this story. It's too wacky. But anyway, I feel like that's kind of like that's where we're headed. It's the idea you think uh, you can change something, right? And it's got to be by like the young people first. So if you start with like Boy Scout troops and Girl Scout troops, Physical fitness is always a good thing. Be out in the sun, running around, or in the cold. So I guess some of those physical fitness standards, but do it in a way that is interesting for kids. But I think you raised 30 years of people who sat around, and then those people grew up to be adults who had kids, and they all sat around. And now you're trying to relight something to get the mindset of a whole group of the next generation of people fired up about something. I don't know about what, but yeah, it can't. You're not going to Mars with a culture that sits on the couch. You're not becoming looky-loos going, "Ooh, a rocket went off. Oh, that's awesome." Right? You got to sort of fix the system, and the system is failing. Good Lord, I am thirsty, and the system is failing because I think you've consolidated too much of the power and the money in a few hands, uh, and those hands are now bigger than the government's hands. So now you've got real problems. So back to my ridiculous idea. Wow, whew. What you have to do, like $50 million, take the super most successful people. Uh, but the city is dead. Do you want to see some? Can we even stream? I don't think we can. Gary, Indiana. Here's the thing they said about it. I was like, well, there's internet everywhere. Surely you can do this in Gary, Indiana. And some people are willing to try and travel, right? You're not getting a million people. You may get a handful, and then you build a new system from there. What's the new system? Uh, don't know. I'm assuming it has everything to do with education and being physically trying to be physically and mentally sharp without being like a monk or some shit, right? But like you should still be able to go to movies and have some whiskey and talk shit and go dancing. But it's easy to do it together. Wherever you're trying to go, it's easy to go together. That's an African proverb, actually. If you want to go, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Right. So you have to go far. So you have to go together. Where's my phone? Here it is. Okay, so we've been streaming, good Lord, for an hour. It is 7:30. Living with the legacy of a botched circumcision. A botched circumcision. That is horrible. Well, that's not awesome. Um, the 100 greatest songs of all time. Should we even look at this? People are still telling me about vaccinations. Here's the problem. This thing has been around for 2 years now. We don't talk about the vaccine, but still, this thing has been around for like a long time now, like a year plus. A year and a half. It's like, okay, March was a year, right? So it's been around for like a year and a half. We're going into another March. Excuse me. So if you cannot seem to get your population to do this thing without threatening them, your leadership is bad, right? And part of this is I think you've raised the populace, all of us Americans here, to just be angry and willful, so you could get elected. Not you, but so people could get elected. Send me to Congress, and I'll make sure that we're tough on crime. Which judge wink wink. We hate black people, or all this other side talking. These small sections that get a vote to send somebody to Congress, right? Uh, this is the payoff. I mean, everything has consequences. This is your payoff. It's depressing, but it's true. You need a group. I mean, I say it on the show all the time. We're too diverse. You need more unity of a mind, of a mind's eye project, or view of us all, rather. Just because we're all from different places and we don't share lineage together or religion of each other, right? And the way this is going, we don't even share freaking sexual roles that were been common for like all of human history, right? We're supposed to be the premier nation. And by that I mean we'll try it first, and we're becoming more of a conservative kind of thing. What is going on? Do we even want to read that? Ugh. Chinese women are dumping their boyfriends over a feminist comedian. There's civil war in Philippines. Okay, with it. Poland says the Belarusian services fired toward them, toward its troops. So there's still war going on in like Europe. I mean, man, all throughout the '80s, there was this guy Nicholas Ceausescu, and he was killing people all over Europe. Not all over Europe, but like I mean, there was well, they just had a war with Chechnya again. Somebody on her phone talking about the world. I feel you. This whole Gabby. Here's the thing about this Gabby, this missing Gabby girl. She's been missing now for about 2 weeks, and her story is already disappearing. For it to revive, they have to find the boyfriend, right? But that I mean, that's it. The world moves on. Like this boy shot up the place. It was on news every place, shooting, 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 and already that he's out. Like William just told us, he's out, and now that story seems to be getting squishy. You need to feed the beast. What's your next story? But the easy thing to go to is celebrities because they're always around, right? And it's like watching people in the terrarium. Do you really care about Britney Spears' conservatorship or anything? Do you follow her on Twitter? Do you give a fuck? This is what they're going to tell you instead of telling you what about the debt. Well, not really the debt ceiling. You don't really care about the debt ceiling, but like, how about like, hey, why don't I? How about why don't questions? Why don't I have universal health care? We're better than Europe. We're better than Canada. Why don't you do this for me? Who stands in the way? How come that guy isn't a traitor if that's the case? I mean, how are you taking more influence from corporate America? See, and that's the thing. Corporations are people. Then they can say the people can talk to the congressman, right? But you can't because you're not a people. I don't know what you are, but only corporations are people in America. All right. We have been streaming for an hour and 8 minutes. I guess we could go on a little further, but I don't really know what else to say. We've covered a lot um in like the last 3 weeks. And you know where I stand on all this. I think that the powers that be have shushed up Donald Trump, whether you agree with him or not. You should be able to hear him say whatever he wants to say. And people are always attacking him on TV. He should at least be able to defend himself. And they've completely silenced a president of the United States of America. And I have a problem with that. I really fucking have a problem with that. Um, and if he's such an idiot, like you say, he should allow to say idiot shit so we can go look at this motherfucker, right? But yeah, this is more about I watched something where they were saying where he keeps his money. I'm like, ooh, are you doing this for everybody? Right? This is gonna be awesome. I like that they're opening up these can of worms though, because you can't shut them down when once you're out of office. The DOJ is investigating Americans for war allegedly crimes allegedly committed while fighting with far right extremists in the Ukraine. So you went over to the Ukraine as a private citizen to help them army fight. America had the problem with that because then you come home as a trained warfighter that they didn't train. You're a problem for the American state when you do that. It also shows, in my opinion, disloyalty. If you're young enough to fight in an army, why are you not fighting in the American army? Right? And they had people do this. They had people go and fight in the IRA in Ireland and then come back here like nothing ever happened. And the government knocked on their door, and rightfully so. yeah, not a lot going on. Ugh, all right. I guess that's it, ladies and gentlemen. We're gonna end it here. Uh, another early one, right? 10 minutes early this time. I'm gonna thank all of you. Tomorrow, I guess I could practice my bar chords tomorrow. Tomorrow's gonna be a music show. Um, I don't know. I'm kind of like, I don't know. You know what? Tomorrow might not be a music show. We'll just put up another 20 minutes or so to hold it. And if so, I'll change it as needed. But it will be tomorrow. It will be 6:30. It will be Saturday, and we will be rocking out. Have a good night, William. It's good to see you. I hope everyone enjoyed our small conversations here. Please like and subscribe. It helps the channel. Uh, True S Armor on YouTube, Karma Armor on Twitch, True Armor here. Uh, enjoy your evening, guys. I will see you in the next one, and the next one is tomorrow at 6:30. Let's close that up, and again, we say goodbye.